Hey everybody, my name's Tripp Corbin. I'm very excited to take part in your virtual GIS day. And I guess this day and age, this thing or this type of media is becoming more common, sadly. Much rather be in person talking with y'all, but glad I could do this. So in talking with what we were supposed to do and say and all that, I understand I'm supposed to kind of talk about my background, where I came from, how I got to where I'm at now, and lessons learned over the course of my career and those kind of things. So I guess that's what I'll do. I've been in the geospatial industry for a long time. Over 25 years, probably closer to 30 now. I really lost count. And it's hard to say because I didn't start out as a GIS person. It was not where I began. I actually began in land surveying, and that was because that's what my dad did. My dad was a licensed surveyor and engineer in the state of Georgia, so that once I got big enough to carry a bush axe and a machete, he had me out in the field working with him, cutting line and pulling chain and running levels and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's where I really kind of got started in the whole idea of capturing spatial information. I mean, I didn't know that's what it was doing at the time, and we certainly weren't doing it with computers at that particular moment, but that's what I was doing. And it was, well, I look back on it now and think it was kind of fun. At the time, I didn't think it was so fun because I'm here in Georgia, I'm a Georgia boy, and it was in the summer, so it was hot and sweaty and dirty and all those things, and it really wasn't what I considered fun. But again, it did start to lay the groundwork on what eventually would become a career. I just didn't know it then. I did go off after high school and decided I did not want to do what my dad did or have anything to do with anything related to what he did, because that's what teenagers do, and decided I was going to go join the Navy. So, which was again kind of, my dad was an Army vet, my grandfather was an Air Force vet, so I went off to go join the Navy. And was planning to make a career out of it, to be honest with you. I was looking to be a career military man, and ended up obviously not doing that for many reasons. Probably first and foremost is my wife. I got married to her while I was in the Navy. She was my high school sweetheart. And being deployed for a long time, so that was not very good for married life, and she pretty much told me I could either stay in the Navy or I could stay married to her, and I chose her, which was a phenomenal decision on my part. One of the smartest things I've ever done. But the reason I bring that up is in the Navy, I also began working with geospatial data. Again, not really thinking of it in that terms, but I became our chart petty officer. So the navigational charts that we used up on the bridge in the Combat Information Center, I was responsible for maintaining those. Now, they were paper at the time, none of this computerized stuff, again. But I had to plot in latitude and longitude on those, update hazards to navigation, and plot navigation. Got my first experience using GPS during that time. It was just a fledgling technology. Right, it had just been really going up because this was in the late 80s, early 90s. So it was still very new. So that was kind of exciting. And then we also had, I was on an aircraft carrier, the USS Saratoga, and we were, just fresh out of the yards. We'd gone through a whole update period, and we had one of the latest and greatest combat information systems for that time frame. And I remember us going out to sea for the first time and getting out there and tracking all these things that we tracked, and airplanes and boats and other things I can't tell you about. In the looking at these big displays that they had, seeing all of the things around us and going, well, is that airplane flying over land or is it over water? Is that boat coming out of the St. Johns River, because we were out of Jacksonville, Florida, or is it already in the ocean? And we didn't know. There were no maps in the system. But we found out you could put maps in the system. And so when we found that out, they started looking for somebody that could do it. And they turned, oh, Tripp, you were a surveyor before you joined the Navy, right? Well, sort of, yeah. You're our chart petty officer, so you understand latitude and longitude and how to plot that, right? Yep. Here, you put these new maps in the system. So I got to digitize all of the east coast of the U.S. Into the system, and then that followed by the Mediterranean into the system. Then that led to the Red Sea, Persian Gulf region into the system because of deployments, and I was involved in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and doing that into the system. And when I say digitizing, it's not what you do today. It's not where you can pull up a map from Esri or Google or Bing and trace it. I mean, I literally had to look at a paper map, figure out the coordinate for the vertice I wanted, the latitude, longitude, and hand key that in for the entirety of the areas I was doing. So for every point line polygon, I had to hand key the coordinates of every vertice. Got very comfortable with working with latitude and longitude as a result of that, but not an experience I want to repeat. But again, it really made me understand how you create points, lines, and polygons, which was a phenomenal base level experience, right? I mean, something that I think a lot of us get today. So anyway, so that's why it's really hard for me to quantify how much experience I've got, because I've been around and done a lot of things, and I guess it's one of the things I want to highlight to y'all, especially if you're new and just getting in the field. Hold on, my trench mark. You don't know what you're going to need to know. And that's a hard lesson to learn, I think. And that never changes. I mean, I said, I've been doing this stuff for a long time, and I still am finding things I don't know, learning things that are good to know, and drawing on a vast array of different experiences. My surveying background, because when I got out of the Navy, I went back to surveying, and went to school at Southern Polytechnic University, now part of Kennesaw State University here in Georgia, for surveying. And I learned all about how parcels are put together, the law involving parcel delineation and boundaries. And then I also learned things about route surveying, things for like roads and utilities, and calculating slopes and hydrology and all these kind of things, which are not straight GIS, but have been a great benefit and boon to me in the course of my career. It's allowed me, as I'm building a GIS for a city or a county, to really understand how a lot of these core pieces, right, the parcel data, the road networks, the utility networks, all those things, how do they really fit together? What does it take to build them and put them together? And just knowing that has been just a great benefit over the course of my career. So I also have run my own consulting company. I started EGIS Associates back in 2010 as an outgrowth of my work at an engineering firm. I actually ended up buying my department that I was the head of there, and starting my own company. And I ran the consulting company from 2010 until 2019. Last November, the DaveyResourceGroup bought my company, EGIS Associates, and so now we're part of them, and I work for them. But that was a whole nother experience. And my dad, who I'm still very close to, he taught me a few lessons I would love to impart that have served me very well over the course of my career. And the first one is be the solution, not the problem. And as you go through your career in GIS, or maybe you just use GIS as a tool within some other profession, such as a planner, tax assessor, engineer, surveyor, whatever it is, you want to be the one that solves problems. I mean, that's the whole value of GIS, right? We help people solve problems. We see an issue, we do analysis, we come up with answers to fix the issues. And we want to be the same way as the professionals in that industry. We want to be the ones doing that work, being that problem solver. So, one of my cats, this is the fun of working from home. Cats coming in making noises. Sorry about that. But anyway, if somebody presents you with a request or something, figure out how to do it within reason. And I guess this is the other part that becomes problematic. And I know I'm kind of rambling, but it's what I do. If you decide to be a GIS professional or a professional planner or something else like that, the term of being a professional has a certain level of liability associated with it, meaning that you as the professional don't just do what somebody says because they told you to do it, even if they're your boss. You have to make choices on what you do and don't do based on some ethical guidelines and rules of conduct. In GIS, we have the GISP certification, which has a set of ethical rules and conduct rules that you should follow that help guide you on what you should do and shouldn't do. So when somebody comes to you with a problem, you want to be the solution. You want to find a way to try to accomplish what they want in spirit, but do so based on those ethical guidelines. So an example of that would be if you're working in, say, a local government, and one of the elected officials comes up. This is great because last night was yesterday I should say, it was election day here. And so elected official comes in and goes, hey, you're responsible for the GIS, so I want you to take these district boundaries, and can you take this one here and just kind of move it over and put this neighborhood into my district for me? I have some friends that live in that neighborhood, and I want them in my district. They want to be in there, so just move that line. Well, you ethically cannot just move the line because somebody told you to, because technically this elected official would be your boss. There are certain legal guidelines on what it takes to move a district boundary like that you're required to follow, the city or county or whatever is required to follow. And just moving it could get everybody in a world of hot water. So, you have to be able to tell that person, I'm sorry, I can't just move the line. Here's the requirements for making adjustments to those boundaries, those district boundaries. And, if you're willing to follow those, we can certainly try to make this happen, but, there's a time frame, all that. Anyway, so you're trying to present them with an answer to accomplish the spirit of what they're trying to do, but you just don't do it, right? And that's just one example. You'll encounter many of those kind of things throughout the course of your career. So keep that in mind. The other part to that is you get work from your friends, so make lots of friends. And there's a caveat to that, or an addendum, I guess is a better word. Is not only do you get work from your friends, so make lots of friends, but GIS is such a broad thing, right? Because we've got programming, we've got analysis and data management, we've got management, right? And that's just part of it, right? And then you count utilities and epidemiology and engineering and so forth, so on, right? You're not going to be able to know everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. I freely admit, I don't know everything. I've been at it this long time. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. I learn new stuff every week. It's just part of it. So having friends can really help you not only get more work, because I think of a job I got, it wasn't because it wasn't a result of having known somebody, either because somebody knew the job opening was there, or because I knew part of the people in the hiring process, or and that goes with projects too, with clients and things, getting work in the door. But also being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, John, appreciate taking a call. I've got an issue with QGIS. I've never used it before. How would you do this and that, right? Being able to have that network of friends that you can reach out to is extremely important to a successful career, because you never know what you're going to encounter. I said, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. Does that make sense? I think it does. Anyway, people think I'm a lot smarter than I really am because I have a pretty vast network of friends throughout the industry, the GIS industry here, not just the U.S., but Canada, Australia, you name it. I know somebody. And so I'm able to reach out across that network when I encounter issues and be able to find answers, right? Again, be the solution, not the problem. So being able to be part of that bigger community to expand your professional network is extremely important. It has been certainly for me. Now, how do you do that? How do you build that network? Well, there's a lot of different ways. Even in this time of the COVID stuff, being part of groups on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and whatnot is one way to do that. If you've got a local users group, GIS users group, like a local URISA chapter, would be an idea, or the Kentucky Mappers Association or Association of Mapping Professionals. Kentucky Association of Mapping Professionals, another good one. They're all over the place. You can generally find one somewhere, at least at the state level, if not even more locally than that. To international. I'm a past president of the URISA International Organization. So that's the Urban and Regional Information Systems Association. One of the, founding bodies of GIS. URISA really did get founded at the same time GIS was coming together with Roger Tomlinson and Jack Dangerman and Barry Weller and all these others that were involved back over 50 years ago now. So getting involved in those kind of organizations, in not just being a member, that's one thing, but actually being active, serving on the boards, attending the workshops, going to the conferences, whether they're virtual or in person. Hopefully we'll get back to that. Doing that. And expanding, the other part to that I'd say is expanding outside. So I've got a couple of things sitting here. Ryzen 7 box, it's a CPU box and a Netgear router here. That's another thing we see with GIS, is that it's expanding beyond just spatial data. We're now having to get into other things like networking, computer networking, not just people networking, computer networking, computer hardware, security, data security, all of those things. So being able to expand your knowledge out there. Never turn down a learning opportunity, because you never know what you're going to need to know, as I've said. I did spend, I mentioned being a surveyor, but I also spent a few years as a network administrator and systems engineer. So I helped build networks, not just for the company I work for, but for our clients, going in, setting up servers, setting up routers, setting up switches, configuring shares and adding user permissions and all those kind of things. You just never know. Matter of fact, the computer I use right now is one I built myself. I actually built my own PC, which was, again, good to know. Understanding how those hardware components work is very important. So, you just never know what you need to know. Let's see, what else can I think about me and what I've done in the course of my career? Oh, I've written 3 books. This is one example. So this is Learning ArcGIS Pro 2, 2nd edition. There's also Learning Arc Pro, which was the 1st edition. I've written that one, and then I wrote another one, an ArcGIS Pro 2.x cookbook. So that was exciting. It's a great way to really expand what you already know. Diving into details, it forces you to dig in. It also helps you get through and really think through your processes. How do you do things? You'd be surprised how much stuff you do that you don't even know you do. That you just do by memory, right? So again, doing things like that's a good way to expand your knowledge. Also a good way to expand your network. Get your name out there. Folks get to know that. The other thing I want to highlight, and I mentioned IT stuff, but as you move up in your career, expanding beyond the technical, because as you move up, and I guess this is one drawback, and I see this a lot, is that people really like the technology. We get into GIS because we like the analysis component of it, we like working with data, we like solving problems. We like that. And the nice thing about software and data and all that is it doesn't talk back to us. It doesn't fuss at us. Well, okay, systems crash. We know. Data gets lost. We know. But it's easy, right? But as you move up in your career, you have to start managing people. And as my dad always said, life would be really easy if we didn't have to deal with employees and clients or customers. And that's because they're not always easy. People are all unique. They have their own idiosyncrasies, they have their own strengths, their own weaknesses. So as you move up in your career and you get into management and supervision, you have to learn how to handle those people. How do you deal with situations when somebody comes to you crying and you don't know what's going on? How do you deal with that? When somebody gets mad and starts yelling for some reason, how do you deal with that? How do you keep your morale up of your people even if a project may be going badly? How do you do that? These are all skills that are not easy to learn. So things like URISA's Leadership Academy, which I'll be attending next week myself, is a great opportunity to do that. Looking at things like the Project Management Professional Certification, the PMP, gets into a lot of good things with not just people management, but how do you manage a budget? How do you set up a proposal? How do you keep a project on schedule and so on? So that's a good thing to look at as well. So anyway, I've been rambling a lot, talking a lot. Hopefully this is informative and good stuff for you to know. I had no idea how long I was supposed to keep this to 30 minutes. It's a good chance I've run over that, but anyway, I just want to let you know that GIS is a phenomenal career. There's so much we can do with it. It can impact so many different areas. It can help with the environment. It can help with population and education. It can help with city planning and with fire and emergency response. It can help with dealing with election issues, the whole COVID problems that we've been having. How do we track and do that? I mean, there's just 80% of all the data we work with is tied to some geographic location. It exists some place. So the uses of GIS are, there's really no limit. And we see it every day. Since I first got into this a long time ago, the expansion and use of this technology has just been phenomenal. And the skills and things I've had to do have just continued to grow. You never stop learning, and that's what makes this so exciting. I really love being part of this profession, part of this community, part of this industry, because it's wonderful. It's amazing. It's exciting. And it's challenging. I like that every day I get up, I'm having to do new stuff. I'm having to face new challenges, solve new problems. And I really, really do like that. It's really just wonderful part of what we do. So I hope this has encouraged you. I hope you've liked what you've heard. Maybe you picked up something didn't know. I'll make sure to include my contact information. So if you're out there, you have some questions, you want to know about certification, you want to know about URISA. I forgot to mention I have multiple certifications. I've got my GISP. I've got several ESRI certifications. I also have Camtasia certified, so that's another software video editing because I maintain 2 YouTube channels. So I've got the EGIS Associates YouTube channel for my company, and then I have a separate one for my personal project, which is restoring a 67 Mustang. So that's 67 Stang is that channel. So I have to learn how to edit videos. Not say I'm the greatest at it, but I get it done. Of course, you can kind of see how good or bad I am based on this video. Anyway, so get just another skill set, which helps me with the training and stuff I do as well. Anyway, so again, back to what I'm saying. I'll leave my contact information. If you have a question about anything GIS related as far as your career development or whatnot, please feel free to reach out and ask. I hope, like I said, I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being part of your virtual GIS day, and wish y'all the best of luck going forward. Hopefully all this COVID stuff will pass, and maybe we'll be able to all get back together in person at a conference somewhere, whether it's the Esri User Conference or elsewhere, one of the state conferences or anything. I've been up there before. So with that, guys, y'all have a great one, and I'll hopefully see you later.